Hey everybody, it's Sam over at Scorpio Rising Astrology here for another weekly forecast. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad that y'all are liking the weekly forecasts and how I break them down. If you have any suggestions, please feel free to drop them in the comments below. But without further ado, let's get into the forecast because we've got some really interesting things coming up this week, as well as a full moon lunar eclipse rather. Let's talk about that. Okay, so first and foremost, let's talk about Monday. And again, just for those of you who are watching, all of these are calculated in Eastern Standard Time because I'm in Tampa, Florida, so that's the time zone that I use, so make sure to adjust for your time zone. On Monday, you know, I've titled it Ouchies Rest Then Deeper Ouchies because we start off our morning 8:55, 9:01. The moon in Libra will square both retrograde Pluto and Jupiter. When we have our moon making a square first thing in the morning, squares are a harsher aspect, and to get a double dose of that from Jupiter and Capricorn, who will conjoin this week as well, which is not really super great. They'll conjoin on Tuesday. It's just, there's a lot of very deep emotional friction that's going to be coming to the surface on Monday morning. So if you have board meetings, if you have important conference calls, if you have things that are happening on Monday morning, just really, really tread carefully, be soft, be compassionate, be aware, because those squares are really going to send people for a doozy, especially if you're following along with your own chart. That square will be happening between your Libra house and your Capricorn house. If you're not sure what your houses are, might be time to get an astrology reading, which you can always book through my website, scorpiorisingastrology.com. Then the moon in Libra will be applying to a trine with the North Node, which will give us a driven sense of the day towards the end. The moon will then shift into Scorpio. Moving from Libra to Scorpio, we have that airy Libra energy, which is really nice and revitalizing. But then we move into Scorpio, which is that deep fixed water energy, very emotional. And the moon then squares retrograde Saturn and Aquarius. So we begin our day and we end our day on sour notes, unfortunately, squaring each of the retrograde planets, Jupiter, Saturn, and Pluto at that time, so not necessarily great. The sleep is going to be poor with deep dreams, and there's a reason why I say poor with deep dreams. We have the retrograde Jupiter retrograde Pluto conjunction in Capricorn at 12:17 a.m. on Tuesday. So right after midnight on Tuesday, Jupiter, the planet of expansion, and Pluto, the planet of, well, death and change and transformation and the underworld, basically, will be conjoining in Capricorn. Now, when I talk about Pluto, Pluto is one of my favorite planets because it's on my ascendant, and it is that very Hades archetype, Lord of the underworld. You know, Pluto in Capricorn has been bringing up some very deep subconscious themes for a lot of people. It's really been bringing up some very intense power dynamics worldwide, and Jupiter is normally our planet of abundance, normally our planet of expansion, normally our planet of bringing things to a more luxurious standpoint. And unfortunately, he's not only in his least favorite sign, the sign of his detriment, Capricorn, but he's also retrograde, going backwards. And to have those two energies come together, I think we're just going to get this energy of Tuesday being repeat offenders, is a good way to say it. And there being an additional wave of some of that deeper subconscious power struggle toxicity that's going to start to innervate our week next week as we start to rehash the same concepts as these planets re-retrograde over each other. We're just going to keep getting bogged down by the lessons that we have not fully learned. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, but it will be rather tumultuous. So stay vigilant. At 10:19 in the morning on Tuesday, we have the moon in Scorpio trining the sun in Cancer. This is going to be a much a less watery trine than it looks. So normally when the moon is in Scorpio or any water sign and then trining a sun to Cancer, you know, there's going to be this over watery, over emotional sense. However, dynamics have changed since the last time that the moon is in Scorpio, because Mars, the ruler of Scorpio, is now in Aries, his home sign. He's all fiery and combusting, and the moon is being ruled by that fiery Mars. Likewise, the sun is being ruled by Cancer, so there's mutual reception, and I think that this is one of our most positive aspects of the week, actually, to really get some emotional momentum going on Tuesday morning, and I think it's really going to be quite helpful, actually. So that's that. The moon in Scorpio will then oppose Uranus and Taurus midday, so there's going to be a little bit of a shakeup, especially between your Scorpio and Taurus houses. Uranus is that planet of unpredictability, so Tuesday afternoon, just make room for the unexpected. Good way to say it. Then 11:38, we have a trine to Mercury retrograde, which again kind of compounds that idea of Uranus making things cool but not so cool, like, oh, that's interesting and unexpected, which we can view as either interesting or like totally off script and weird. So just learn to process those quirks a little bit effectively on Tuesday. Sextile to Uranus and Taurus between Mercury and Cancer. So we have this theme of Uranus and Mercury kind of coming together on Tuesday afternoon, giving you this feeling of like, oh, well, let's not use this time to be safe. We're trying to shake things up. We're trying to reorganize, and being comfortable with the chaos is a good way to think of Tuesday's energies as well. Then we have the Mercury Cazimi. So a Cazimi is when any planet conjoins the sun, but specifically is referred to when a planet is retrograde and conjoins the sun, like Venus recently did, and like Mercury will do on Tuesday. So this is often in a retrograde cycle when we find a lot of the meanings behind the planetary retrograde coming to the surface, because the planet is backlit. Yeah, the planet is moving in front of the sun, or sitting in the heart of the sun is a great way to think about it. And so Mercury and Mercury's presence in Cancer is being kind of peacocked and really shown and saying, hey, just in case you were wondering, this is what I'm about. And that's going to be a really helpful theme to realize Tuesday evening, definitely going to be a little bit more apt for reflection, be a good way to say it. Sleep conditions are poor because we have the sun making a sextile to Uranus in the middle of the night. Uranus, again, that planet of unpredictability, not necessarily great. But, you know, Wednesday we have all positive aspects. It's just they're all with retrograde planets. And we had a day like this similar last week where, you know, we have a trine to Neptune, sextile to Jupiter, sextile to Pluto, sextile to Saturn again. Like we have good aspects, good dynamics, good chemistry. It's just with the wrong people is a good way to think about it. You know, we start with a little bit of bumpy Uranian energy, and then retrograde Neptune, Jupiter, Pluto come into the surface. Then Saturn proceeds to retrograde into Capricorn. That's really the big thing on Wednesday. And then we have one more Scorpio aspect before the moon shifts into Sagittarius and gives us a little bit more lighthearted fire, which we're going to close out the week with. Now, Saturn retrograding into Cancer is a really, really big shift. A lot of my clients have enjoyed some of the Saturn in Aquarius energy because it's taken a break from all of this really heavy, dense Capricorn nonsense that just keeps being hammered over and over and over. And check out your Capricorn house in your chart for more of where this is actually playing out in your life, life topic-wise. But Saturn retrograding back into Capricorn really does remind us that the past is not closed. The past is not finished. We have not completed all of these lessons that this 1.5-year pileup has really been trying to hammer home to us. It's not done. We're getting towards the hump, but we're not there yet. We still have issues that we need resolved. And it won't fully be complete until around December 19th when Saturn and Jupiter are both in Aquarius, and then they can join in Aquarius. So it's the start, it's the beginning of the end, not the end, capital T, capital E, but the idea of there's this, again, rehashing that's happening of the Lord of Capricorn moving back into Capricorn and being like, y'all are making a mess of my house, but it's cool because I'm going to make a mess of my house too. And that heavy kind of doubling down of Capricorn will be going through it again. Sleep will be fair because the moon in Sagittarius is unaspected except for this Mars and Aries trine. Now, I say it's fair because it's not good, not bad. It's just the energy needs to be channeled. For those of you who struggle with a lot of watery stagnation and emotional stuff, and that's been disrupting your sleep, you're going to find that you're going to sleep really, really well Wednesday to Thursday because all of this fire energy is going to evaporate those emotions and it'll create a nice counterbalance. However, if you already have been running too hot, especially if you're prone to muscular spasm, because Aries is the sign that rules the muscles, this is our first trine between the moon and newly ingressed Mars and Aries. So there's this heat wave effect that we're going to get on Thursday early in the morning. And I really think that if channeled properly, it'll be great. But if channeled inappropriately, it's going to lead to a lot of combustion, a lot of heat, a lot of liver inflammation, a lot of inflammation in the muscles. Wednesday evening into Thursday would not be a good time to like overdo it at the gym. Yeah, it would definitely be a night to rest. If you're planning anything overactive, I would caution against that. Then we have the 8:01 a.m. opposition between Venus and the moon. Just be on your guard, like set 2 alarms on Thursday morning. Just make sure that you're prepared for things to go just a little bit wonky. And that specifically you're prepared for any relationship dynamics to be a little bit on edge, probably because of the overnight Mars trine. So other than that, I mean, we have a full day of just a Sagittarius moon, which is this really nice, lighthearted energy, which I enjoy, but you know, we have to get through the morning first. Then on Friday, we have sleepy disassociations because we wake up to a Mars or a moon in Sagittarius square with Neptune. Neptune is the planet of sleep. Neptune is the planet of feeling sluggish, here, not here, kind of in the ethers, floating around in nebulousness. Yeah. And the moon in Sagittarius making a harsh aspect to that planet first thing in the morning does throw off our sleep schedule just a bit on Friday. So keep that alarm for first thing in the morning if you're back into a working mode. And then the moon conjoins the south node at 11:18, and that south node is that point of purging. So we really see on Friday into the afternoon that purging is really the energy that I think, the disassociation, the letting go, the releasing, the I'm done with this, I need to take things off my plate. You know, all of those phrasings are very appropriate for Friday, kind of noting what's happened the rest of the week and just becoming a little bit more carefree about it. Like Friday afternoon into evening is really just about enjoyment, about no pressure, about kind of having fun for fun's sake, as opposed to piling things on or adding to the to-do list. Like make Friday afternoon to evening easy and lesser and no stress. The weekend is where we really get into some interesting dynamics with Capricorn. It's already been a Capricorn heavy week with Saturn, but now we're getting into kind of the crux of why Saturn has slowly been biding time in order to really just hit us again. And that's kind of an underlying theme of the week is Capricorn starting to exert subtle dominance over our lives. You know, Capricorn is that cardinal earth, that very business-oriented, rule-oriented, law-oriented sign that's trying to give us a karmic whooping to teach us like, hey, there is a more efficient way to do this, but I'm going to make you get it wrong before you get it right. It's that tough love teacher, and Capricorn is very much going to assist in that. So Saturday, we have the setup for our Sunday. Saturday, we have first thing in the morning, which makes sleep rather good. A moon in an earth sign is going to be really, really heavy, really, really deep subconscious activity. And so the moon moving into Capricorn at midnight, just after midnight, 1 o'clock, is going to be really helpful. Now, when we wake up, we have a little bit more of a shaky day, shaky, shaky, wakey, wakey. That's the title of Saturday. And that moon square to Aries, that frictionless aspect to Mars and Aries is not nice, and that's going to kick our morning off with some misplaced anger, some frustration, some stubbornness, which leads to fiery tendencies. Then midday, we have an opposition to Mercury retrograde, and any time that Mercury's retrograde and the moon starts to touch it, there's that kind of bringing up of miscommunication or things not being necessarily heard the right way or thought about the right way, and the need to reevaluate mental patterns and word choices. Then we have the moon trine Uranus, which is, again, that planet of unpredictability. So it's a strong positive aspect, that trine, but it is with an outer planet that's asking us to change, to pick up our roots, to replant ourselves somewhere different, to challenge the expected and embrace the unexpected. So Saturday night could be rather fun, but it will just be about like keeping your mind open and not necessarily being emotionally attached to any particular outcome. Yeah. So sleep conditions will be a little bit poor because we do have a little bit poor. They will be poor because we have a full moon lunar eclipse in Capricorn Sunday morning. So let's talk about, and for those of you who are interested in more lunar stuff, I recently taught a course on full moon techniques, which talked about full moon remediation. And this Saturday, Sunday, especially Saturday, because it's Saturn's day, and Saturn is ruling this full moon via Capricorn and recently ingressed into Capricorn. We have to honor Capricorn this week. It's totally a thing. And so when we look at the full moon lunar eclipse in Capricorn, if you'd like to purchase that class, it's $30 on my website for a 2-hour lecture on full moon techniques, which I think would be really helpful for this full moon specifically, because it's going to be tough. And that's kind of the nature of Capricorn, is toughness, right? So the toughness of the full moon lunar eclipse, just to remind you, eclipses are technically malefic events. So they're where the light of the moon, in her fullness, she's supposed to be bright, she's supposed to be brilliant, she's supposed to be the star of the show, and instead she's being eclipsed. Yeah, the light of her grace has been rescinded, and that's what makes it a malefic event, which we don't like to happen at midnight. Yeah, so that's not going to be, it's not going to be cool. It's not going to be copacetic, and we just need to respect that. And all of this is happening in your Capricorn house. Then the rest of the day, we have the moon in Capricorn sextiling Neptune, so it's going to be a very sleepy, very etheric, very not really a good day to be productive, because things will just be slightly confusing, ambiguous. You'll still be kind of energetically hungover from the full moon eclipse the previous night. It will be a very stark realization time, and it's a time to go inward. It's a time to reflect. It's a time to not be doing too much on Sunday. And then the moon conjoins Jupiter and Pluto retrograde in Capricorn to highlight, because very much like when something like the Cazimi earlier with Mercury, when a planet sits in the heart of the sun, it's backlit. And likewise, when the moon conjoins a planet, that planet is backlit or reflected as well. So there's a double dose of that energy. And Sunday evening, the more we go, the deeper it's going to get, the harder it's going to get, and the more it's going to be about kind of turning in for reflection, first and foremost. And then a fair but deep round of sleep, because the moon will be applying to a conjunction with Saturn, which again is good, because we want that earth energy to ground us down in while we dream and make our body less restless, as opposed to kind of the fire trine that we experienced earlier in the week. But I think that there will still be a lot of deep subconscious activity because of all of the aspects to the moon, the aspects to Jupiter, Pluto, that conjunction. So there's just going to be a lot of subconscious wheeling throughout the week. Okie dokie. So that is our forecast for the week. Let me know how these aspects are affecting you. Let me know kind of what's going on in your life and how these predictions of the way that things will be based on astrology have really started to clarify some patterns and maybe help you plan your week around the aspects. As always, remember to coordinate your own time and make sure to adjust accordingly. And yeah, I think that's pretty much about it. If you would like to schedule a private consult or would like to follow me on social media channels, because I do the daily posts as well, which are a little bit more extensive with pretty pictures, you can follow me at Scorpio Rising Astrology on Instagram, at Sam Bellier on Facebook, and always make sure to follow the YouTube channel. And Scorpio Rising Astrology is my website if you'd like to purchase that full moon techniques class or schedule a consult with me. Be happy to work with you one-on-one. And in the meantime, may the stars be ever in your favor.